Okay, so hi everyone, welcome again. Today we are here for 53rd MuleSoft Meetup, and the topic is MuleSoft for clinical trial modernization. Safe harbor statement. Both the speaker and the host are organizing this meetup in individual capacity. We are not representing our companies here. This presentation is strictly for learning purpose. Organizer and presenter do not hold any responsibility that same solution will work for your business requirements. This presentation is not meant for any promotional activities. Housekeeping statement. We will be recording this session and later it will be uploaded to YouTube. To make it more interactive, we can ask questions on mic or chat box. Feedback is very important for us. It's like bread and butter. We get to know if we are lacking somewhere. So please give us feedbacks at the end of session. Organizers, me, Nitish Jain, and Jiten Bapna. I'll skip my I'll skip myself and quickly I'll take it up to speaker Anand Sankar Jordar. So Anand, please take it from here.
Okay.
I'll unshare my screen.
Okay, sure.
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay. So let me know. So first of all, am I audible, Nitish?
Yes, Anand.
Okay, thank you. So first of all, I want to thanks Nitish and Jitendra for giving me an opportunity to present in this excellent forum because I joined in Surat Meetup as a listener many a times as an audience, and first time I'm speaking on this same forum, so I'm very much excited. So I have 17 years of total experience, and I have 5 years experience in MuleSoft, and currently I am working in Tata Consultancy Services, and I'm working with few large customers and helping them to set up MuleSoft in their organization. And as a whole, I am a certified delivery champion and all certified MuleSoft architect. I also am a MuleSoft mentor, and I am active in MuleSoft community, and I get an opportunity through that community to create a network and interact with many great minds in MuleSoft community. And yeah, that's it from, I mean, as a introduction. This is me. Let's move on. So before we start, actually this presentation I prepared, like it's more about a context within the context of uh, clinical trial organization or research organization, how MuleSoft can be implemented or utilized by these industry verticals to thrive. And if anyone already working in clinical research organization or trial organization and having that background, please feel free to add on, because I am also new to this particular organization. One of my customer with whom I am working, they are very much, I mean, they are actually a clinical research organization, and for them we are implementing a MuleSoft platform. And based on that experience, I have prepared this specific meetup presentation. And what I plan is that I will show three of the areas where MuleSoft can be utilized as a platform for this type of research organization for their digital transformation. And this is one is the decentralized clinical trial, which is a hot topic in this particular industry. And then how this trial organization can create a value economy or business economy along with their partners using the API-led connectivity that is MuleSoft offered. And then we will see that how business process can be hyper automated using the latest release of MuleSoft, that is their automation product suite. So we'll touch upon all these three things, and then I have prepared a small demo based on MuleSoft Composer, and then we'll go move to Q&A session. So before that, I mean, let us have an introduction on what is actually clinical research organization. So if I define clinical research organization, these are the organization who actually took contract from different pharma manufacturing companies, and they do trial on human beings of new drugs and therapeutic processes, and then they produce the result and submit it. Along the way, they also interact with many regulatory bodies and provide them. I mean, there are many regulatory audit happen because all these trials are related to human lives, so there are stringent regulatory process. They need to create a lot of reports, and they need to submit it. And finally, the sponsor, basically who actually give them the contract to conduct this trial on the new medicine, to them also they need to provide the entire report of the, I mean, whatever test they are conducting. And they also help people, or they are sponsors to marketize that product. I mean, some clinical trial organization does that. So that is pretty much what clinical research organization is. And sometimes the pharma company itself, they have a line of business called clinical trial organization, so that is in-house. Sometimes there are organizations who basically do their business with this as a research organization, where they take contract from external sponsor or external pharma manufacturing company. So this is a phase, how this clinical research happened, means how one drug can move to different life cycle from discovery to manufacturing. So basically, initially there are clinical discovery happened. So some research R&D department, they come up with some new medicine or new drugs, and then in preclinical phase they implement those drugs on some laboratory animals and see what is, I mean, do some kind of safety measurement. Once they submit that result and get the approval to do the trial on human beings, then the clinical trials started. And these trials have mostly, by and large, they have three phases, but that doesn't mean that every trial needs to have three phases. It can be more than three also. So during phase one, it's actually, it was the new drug is tested on a small set of patients, or what we call generally subjects. And then uh, in that phase one, it's mostly the safety measurements are done, that the drugs are, whatever steps they are doing on the human beings, that is not creating any adverse side effects. And so if phase one is successful, then it's moved to phase two, where for a specific disease, how the drug is working, that is, I mean, maybe a type of cancer or a type of numerical disease, how the drug is responding. So that is what is phase two. And then phase three, what is being tested is that how this new drug is working with respect to any existing drug already available in the market for the same medical therapy. And then the entire clinical trial results submitted to FDA review. So I put FDA because FDA is the regulatory body in the US market. But similarly, I mean, wherever they are, if they are, this trial is happening for Europe region, they have a different regulatory body, or if this trial is happening for Asia region or African region, so there are different regulatory bodies around the globe. So they actually review the test result, the entire trial process, and based on that, they give a go ahead, either a go or a no go, to go for, I mean, to produce this drug in mass and deliver it to market. So then the manufacturing process starts. Now, let us see what some of the industry trends in CRO companies that, but when I'm saying industry trends, it means that what are the digital techniques now the CRO companies are adopted. So basically, the clinical trial organization, since they are dealing with many sensitive data or information, because these are patient data. So till pre-pandemic, there was a very slowness in adopting digital transformation, unlike the other industrial areas like banking or finance or telecommunication or retail. But now during pandemic it has been realized that something needs to be changed, because the entire trial process from discovery to manufacturing for a new drug, it almost took a decade to complete. I mean, it's 10 years, 14 years on an average to complete the entire to come up with a new drug from discovery to manufacturing. But pandemic shows us that we need to come up with a vaccine, COVID vaccine, within a year. So challenge was huge. And now that's why clinical trial organizations are gradually moving to adopting new digital technology to expedite this trial process, and as well as the entire life cycle of a drug manufacturing. So one of the thing is that intelligent data collection. So where they are using wearable devices to remotely collect data from human beings when the human beings are not in touch, direct touch with the CRO organization. So this is what we will discuss more when we will go into the decentralized clinical trial topic. Next is AI and ML. So predictive analytics are being used in drug discovery specifically. So along with this AI and ML, researchers can now focus on core areas, and they can take data-driven decision very faster. So that is what is the discovery phase is getting. I mean, this is the way how clinical trial organizations are trying to expedite their discovery phase. And then data analytics, obviously, because all clinical research organization or trial organization majorly deals with a lot of data, and these data are complex because a lot of biovital or patient details have been captured. And there are many presentation of data. I mean, few data is for trial process, researchers using the same data in a different presentation. Then the same data is sometimes most of the time it is being presented to the auditor and regulatory bodies. So data analytics trend pattern is also gaining uh, popularity in trial organization with modern analytics and AI/ML technologies. And also this R&D collaboration, because it is evident that so far before, as I mentioned, post pandemic, this trial organization, whatever they do within their organization. But now they understand that for complex trial where or with rare disease, they need to collaborate with each other. They need to go for a partnership so that they have a collaborative knowledge sharing in real time, as a real time data feed exchange, and they can expedite the overall process so that overall drug manufacturing can be expedited. So I'm just taking a pause. Anybody has any questions, or I can move on? Okay. So before moving further, I mean, these are the few clinical trial terminologies. So because these are we are going to use frequently in our subsequent discussion. So sponsor means someone who is actually sponsoring the entire trial, so they actually pay for this trial. Study is the person or the patient on whom the study is the process through which the trial has been conducted. Means it is how the trial will be conducted, that is the study. And subject is the patient or the individual who will be directly involved in this trial process. Site is basically the R&D lab or the nursing home or the hospital where the patients will come and they will get these test drugs, and they will be monitored and observed. Principal investigator is the person, specifically is the lead doctors who are actually going to conduct the trials. And protocol is a document that describes that how the trial will be conducted. Site qualification visit, basically site means, as I mentioned, that this is the nursing home or R&D facility. So when the sponsor give a trial contract to a CRO organization, they usually come and check whether the site where the trial will be uh, conducted, is it qualified for this particular, for this type of testing or not. So this is basically an audit visit. They used to come and check that everything is as per their standard and expectation. Site monitoring visit is periodically monitoring the trial and on a specific site. And site activation is that, I mean, the trial started at least with one patient. So if one trial having one patient to start the test, that means the site is activated in a specific site. That means the site is in activation mode. So again, I'm giving a pause.
Uh, yeah,
Yeah,
and we have a question from Siva.
yeah.
Uh, do need to certify in HIPAA to deal with the data while deploying APIs in Cloud Hub?
Yeah, yeah. So HIPAA, if you want, I mean, see, this is actually when the trial is happening, it's not mandatory that every time you have to come with a data model which which conform with HIPAA. But yes, HIPAA is one of the standard way to exchange patient data across multiple trial organization, or when we are talking about partnership. Similarly, they have some different kind of data models which is standard across the clinical trial organization. So they also use that sort of data modeling. So yeah, so different options are available in short. But yeah, HIPAA is a popular way of exchanging patient data. I believe if I able to answer the question.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, now let us see what CRO company do. So they, as I mentioned, that they do study management. So they will do everything. I mean, selecting the site, recruiting the patient. So patient recruitment is a big task because you cannot take anyone for a drug test. So you need to see that there are some features, some matching criteria based on what you need to take those patients. And patient cannot be, I mean, there can be many things you need to consider. I mean, you can take patient from a specific area, or globally you can take patients from different area to conduct a diverse kind of trial. So many things need to be considered. Then we need to do the study monitoring, means the entire trial needs to be monitored very closely, and study management including all kind of reporting and medical write-up. So then research compliance, because audit and regulation is a very important part, and it's very time consuming process within the overall trial process, because each and every step audited by some regulatory body, and lot of data needs to produce, lot of report needs to generate, and lot of reports need to produce to this regulatory body, and then they come back with lot of questions, and then these queries needs to be answered on time. Otherwise I mean, those regulatory bodies or authorities have the authority to stop the trial. So they can come and say that you are not supposed to conduct any more trial, because I mean, this trial is getting banned. So next is product planning. So many clinical research organization also do product planning for pharma manufacturing, and basically it can be a healthcare product. So what is healthcare product? These are the product which you can buy. These are medicated product, but these are like medicated cosmetics or toothpaste or something like that, which you can buy from a medicine store without any prescription. So those we are called healthcare product. And also some medicine also as a product. I mean, pharma manufacturing, for them the product is every product is a medicated product. So medical uh, means some of the medications and also all those things, that is also as a product. So they can plan, I mean, clinical research organization can plan for a pharma manufacturing company that what will be their market, who will be their potential buyer, and all these things also they are get involved in. And data management, obviously, because the entire trial organization produce so much of data, and so much of data representation they need to do, because of I mean, there are different stakeholders involved. So the data management is a key task for them, and it takes a lot of time, because as I mentioned that pre-pandemic the clinical trial organization were not that much into digital transformation. So there are still a lot of manual activities involved. And second thing is that over the period there are a lot of legacy system has been I mean, implemented or deployed to do clinical trial organization. And now the problem is that in one fine morning they cannot replace everything and go for a all I mean 100% digital transformation with modern technology, because they always have a fear that if they do so, that can impact their existing business, and also there is always a fear of losing data. And since the data is very sensible data, so any kind of data leak or data loss of data is going to impact hugely. I mean, the clinical research organization can close down their shop also, I mean, if this is what is reported. So next is the quality management. So definitely, I mean, each and every layer they have to report that what kind of, I mean, regarding the quality of the medicine or the therapeutic process on which the trial is going on. And another thing is that they have to do a lot of reporting and medical writing. So many clinical research organization publish periodically publish their reports on some of the trial process or some new disease appearing and what is going on for this new disease to, I mean, what is going on in the sense of on the medication, I mean, on the curing side of this new disease, what is going on, what research is going on. So that kind of medical writing they also need to do. So now some of the business challenges in trial organization. So one of the thing is that this regulatory approval, because problem is that especially those clinical research organization who do business globally, they need to come across with multiple regulatory bodies. So I have some regulatory complication or some regulatory obligation in US region, some different regulatory rules I have to follow in Europe region. So moment my geography or continent or country is getting changed, my regulatory norms are also getting changed. And because of that, there are many challenges this trial organization need to face, and according to they need to design their study. There are sometimes there are loss of time because of this, and lot of manual effort needs to put. And then patient recruitment is another challenge, because as I mentioned that new, I mean, trials process, I mean, for new drug trial process is very, I mean, it's continue over a decade also. So first of all, retaining a patient for such a long period of time, it is challenging. Then getting proper kind of patients from a specific demographic area is another challenges. And then in between the trial, if somebody identify that the patient population is not correct for the trial process, then they need to change the patient population or patient density for the trial process, which again take a lot of time and a lot of effort. And finally is that sometimes it happen that trials start time gets delayed because we don't get patients at the very first. Getting one patient is also sometimes become very much challenging, so which I call site activation. So site activation often gets delayed, and that often gets overall delay the entire clinical trial process. And then the site management, because there are many companies, trial organization, they have their own sites, but there are some geographic region they don't have their own site, so they need to go and lease the site from someone else, and they need to ensure that because of their leasing they are not violating any kind of data privacy rules. And also, I mean, if the sites are, I mean, they need to check that whether the site is accurate for a specific trial, what is the history of the success rate of clinical trial with this site, whether the equipments are adequate. So a lot of things they need to do in terms of site management. And nowadays, now that's why they are now implementing AI related AI ML related technology to get a to understand that which site is best qualified for a specific trial or a specific study. And then data management, because there are a lot of legacy application, data is managing in a fragmented way, and creating data centricity becoming a challenge. So data cleanup is required, lot of duplicate data is there, and also data privacy needs to be maintained. So a lot of things needs to be done in data management, and it's becoming a real challenge for clinical trial organization, because they have to manage a lot of sensitive data. So now we can move to decentralized clinical trial. I mean, now we are going to see that how MuleSoft come into the picture, and how we using MuleSoft, many areas in clinical research organization or trial organization can be improved, and they can thrive and get a competitive edge over others. So before I move into that, any further questions? Sorry, Nitish, I cannot see the question because my screen is all with this slide. So that's a must.
Yeah, we have one more from Shiva. What are the current difficulties and solution to parse data between Indian, US, and EU regions while exchanging data due to different standards?
And it's not only standard because there are not, I mean, there is a common norms like the GDPR that you are not supposed to send data across boundaries, especially if it is a sensitive PI data. So that is one of the challenge. Some countries doesn't allow their citizens data to move from one continent to another continent. And second thing is that there are certain things which you can like decentralized clinical trial will see. So where you are taking data from a wearable devices and you are using those data to do your trial. Now it's, I mean, it's not only the challenges are related to exchanging data across the country, how you are gathering the data, that also can differ between countries. So US and Europe, it is absolutely fine, they are okay with now to use wearables, but some of the Asian countries still till date doesn't allow wearables to get take data from patients. So these are the challenges basically. I mean, these are the regulatory challenges, and since these are all sensitive data, I mean, clinical trial organization dealing with data, 99% of the data is very much sensitive. So that's why there are a lot of challenge, and periodically they need to report back that how they are using those data. So that also being audited very closely, and failing to respond back to auditor on how they are maintaining their data security will cost them to close the trial. I mean, that is the risk. I mean, risk is very high if you they cannot fulfill that requirement.
Okay. Adding on to this, he's asking if so, we have to have different cloud hub regions to overcome this, correct?
Okay. Yeah, sorry, Nitz, I didn't get the question. So two
Okay,
cloud up.
okay, he's asking like he's saying like to overcome this, we have different cloud hub regions. So is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, you can, that's correct. I mean, when you are using MuleSoft, you can use, I mean, based on your, see, first of all, MuleSoft has different deployment models. So if I'm able to go with a cloud hub deployment, I have different region. I have US East, I have US West, I have Europe. So I can use different region for conducting clinical trial for different, I mean, we can go for a multi-regional cloud hub deployment. That's correct. If it's not possible, we can go for a PCT. I mean, which where I mean my control plane will be more. I mean, will be in my local data center. That way also we can do. I mean, some trial organization prefer that also. But you are correct. I mean, you can confine your. I mean, that is how. I mean, that is what is a architectural challenge is when implementing a MuleSoft platform, that you need to ensure that your data is not flowing across the continents, and you need to confine your data within that region. So that's how, I mean, you need to go for a multi-regional cloud hub implementation deployment model.
Okay. And we have one more question from Saru. So
Yeah.
since he's saying like since it is sensitive data, so what type of security policies we will use in MuleSoft?
So first of all, I mean, any sort of security policy, I mean, tokenization you can use, so masking it. And second thing is that, I mean, masking the data, you can use definitely any kind of security policy like client credential, OAuth tokenize, I mean, OAuth 2.0. So all these policies you can use to secure your data. But major thing is that you need to ensure that it's not only MuleSoft, basically the entire platform needs to ensure the MuleSoft plus your peripheral application, everyone needs to ensure that data is moving, uh, or data is at rest, they are encrypted, they are not easily accessible, and there is no way someone can go ahead and access the data. So that is very important. And MuleSoft has a bunch of security policy out of the box. So that's why, I mean, MuleSoft has a great advantage to use for this kind of scenario.
Yeah, all right. That was all. We can continue.
Okay, thank you. So now first look at this decentralized clinical trial. So decentralized clinical trial basically means that, I mean, first of all, what is centralized clinical trial? Centralized clinical trial means you have patients who are enrolled for a trial process, and during the trial process they need to keep on visit to the facility. They come periodically, they have to take the new drug, then again they have to come and they have to, they will be measured that how this drug is impacting on them, and every now and then they need to travel back to this trial facility. But once they step out of the trial facility, nobody can monitor them. And decentralized is completely opposite to that. I mean, decentralized is that you will be remotely you will be given the drug, or you will be monitored, or will be observed. And between decentralized and centralized, there is one more trial process which is called hybrid. Hybrid is something you need not to come back to the clinical trial facility. What you can do, you can choose a nearby location, and where you can go. I mean, in US it's possible, like you have a Target store, within a Target there is a CVS. You can say that, okay, I have a Target store just 5 minutes walking from my apartment, and can go there and I can take the medicine from that CVS within that Target. So that way you can, that is called hybrid, because you are also not coming to the into the centralized trial process. They are also not going to you, but in between somewhere there is an arrangement through which they can monitoring you, they can providing you drugs. So but now entirely decentralized process, the thing is that, it's actually they will provide you a wearable device. It's kind of a Fitbit app, and then it will start monitoring all your vitals, and then through IoT platform it will going to share the information continuously to your centralized trial location or centralized facility. And from there, real time the data will go to analytics or your data platform, and from there the researchers can analyze the data and take decisions. So no matter where you are, patients can be anywhere outside the trial facility, but still they will be connected. And the advantage is that, it is reduce the travel requirement for the patient. Participants can be anywhere doing their own work, but still they will be monitored. And the patient retention, obviously because of this, retention rate is very much high. Speed of trial is very high because real time data is getting being gathered. And then also, accuracy, because the entire data is being gathered at real time through IoT platform. And the data is almost, it is every second or every millisecond or microsecond, that vitals are being captured and shared. So because there are larger data sets, so the accuracy is much higher. But still there are few challenges, as I mentioned, that regulatory hurdles. Some places you data still, till date the decentralized clinical trial is not that much popular or that much allowed, unless you are doing something very very basic kind of monitoring, like blood sugar or pressure, something like that. Then system integration, because a lot of system needs to be integrated. And sometimes even sponsor and sites, don't want to take that risk. They are still comfortable with that centralized clinical trial where a lot of manual process are involved. And obviously user accessibility, because many places are, there are places, there are regions where people are not adequate with that much digital technology. So that is also a challenge. But overall, this decentralized trial process is gaining popularity, and it is increasing. The trend is increasing. Clinical trial organization are going more and more decentralizing their trial process. So as I mentioned, that this is one of the high level flow of clinical trial, a decentralized clinical trial, where MuleSoft we can use as a platform which will do the data streaming. So from a wearable device, from human body, the data can, the signals or data or vitals can be sent to a IoT platform. And from IoT platform, MuleSoft application can take the data. And then, it's through a schedule based process. It can be scheduled, so every 10 minutes, 15 minutes, or 1 hour, it will go and check the IoT platform through IoT API, interacting with IoT API, grab the data and send it to a data lake or a data platform. So now question is that IoT platform itself has their own data analytics, and why we are going to use a data streaming down the line. The reason is that because first of all, as I mentioned, that the entire trial process is very closely audited by many regulatory bodies. So the data, if I have a data in my own data lake or in my own data analytics, then I can create a lot of different kind of reports for a lot of different kind of stakeholders. So for example, when your sponsor comes, they don't want to see, or it is not allowed for them to see all the nitty-gritty of the trial process, but there are definitely some parameters or some specific things they are supposed to check, which we call trial master file. So trial master file is that actually this is the synopsis of the entire trial process, what is going on. So that trial master file goes to sponsor. So that is one kind of reporting. Then another kind of reporting is for the regulatory bodies, where you are actually sending a lot of details. So that is why instead of using the inbuilt IoT analytics, maximum clinical trial organization or research organization prefer that they should grab that data from the IoT platform and then streamline it to their data lake or data platform, and on top of that they can create their own analytics, then their own reporting feature. So now MuleSoft, obviously, I mean, we need to use batch scope, because batch scope has a lot of inbuilt streaming capability, which will automatically, I mean, this batch scope is created out of the box, handle large volume of data. So obviously we can use, I mean, we have to use that for this kind of implementation. Then when we are aggregating, I mean, within the batch we have a aggregator step, so we can use that to load the data, so that when I can do a bulk insert or bulk update. uh, you can implement pagination, which is required when you are taking the data from, extracting the data from IoT platform. Most of the IoT API or REST API out of the box support pagination. So you can mention that, okay, I need data from this to this, maybe from start date to end date, or maybe some kind of different type of pagination, and then accordingly you can take data in chunks. So that, I mean, because IoT platform, you cannot predict that how much data. It's always high volume data. It can increase because it is taking real time data from many patients on their human vitals. So so it can, I mean, there can be lot of data, there can be lot, I mean, many a times there will be high spikes in data volume. So that's why it is always better to safeguard MuleSoft with a pagination process. And also you can use some kind of watermark technology, where you can, I mean, where you can store in a underneath database, where you can store that what was your last successful read, and accordingly you can start reading from next time. I mean, when you will, the scheduler will kick the application next time, then it can start from the next page or next level of pagination. So that is one thing. And some kind of retry mechanism is needed. I mean, it's not that if I cannot extract in one go, I immediately declare it as a failure. So obviously, I mean, it is actually standard MuleSoft process. And so for operation team, there will be a data audit mechanism. What does that mean is that you can create some kind of custom table, or you can use a JSON logger through which you can send the data to down the line queue. And from that queue, again, you can, through a subscriber, you can read those data, I mean, those error data, and log it to a centralized location. It can be your, I mean, it can be inside in your data lakes, or inside your analytics table, or some other table, where transactional database also, or maybe Splunk or Elk, where operation team can come and check that why the data is failing. Because you are dealing with IoT devices, the data continuity is very important. So if one batch is failed, then maybe manually someone has to go and refeed the data. So, or some manual action might needs to be taken, or at least operation team needs to know that this chunk of data is missing. So that is the reason why you may need to do, on top of standard error handling or error mechanism, you need to do some kind of additional customization, or some kind of additional like any normal ELT technology, right? So somewhere you have to log it where it's permanently remain there, and operation team can go and check it. So yeah, and if you are using Cloud Hub, it is recommended to use dedicated load balancer, because dedicated load balancer has a scalability feature. I mean, and the same reason, I mean, if you have using Cloud Hub 2.0, you can use private space so that you can have a your ingress is automatically scalable in Cloud Hub 2.0. So yeah, so that is pretty much in short that how we can utilize MuleSoft in decentralized clinical trial. So again, I'm taking a pause if before moving to next integration pattern, if there is any questions.
Yes, we have one from Jay. So he says, I assume this use case needs performance efficient APIs from MuleSoft.
That's true, but it's more than MuleSoft. There are many standards we need to maintain. First of all, as I mentioned, that if you use batch scope, it will automatically make your application performant a bit. On top of that, you need to do, you need to take care of performance leak. I mean, for example, that you have to use the streaming capability out of the box connector streaming capability in MuleSoft. Second thing, as I mentioned, that pagination. Pagination is a way you can control that you can process the data in chunk instead of allowing the data. I mean, whenever there is a data, if you start loading that data, that can be a problem. So, especially with IoT kind of platforms. So, that is one thing you need to take care of. If you are using too many variables, you need ensure that you are always cleaning those variables through out of the box remove components, so that your heap space are always freed up. You are not unnecessarily occupying anything, and obviously you check your code, you are not using any unnecessary loop or unnecessary conditional logic and all these things. Yeah, so that kind of standard checklist you need to maintain. On top of it, I mean whatever is MuleSoft is providing out of the box, this type of coding standard we need to maintain.
So there we got the answer for your first question, and second is uh, MuleSoft does not provide anything like CDN for caching in regions. So he is asking this.
Okay, so I'm not sure what does that mean, because first of all, this entire process, what I have shown, this decentralized clinical trial here, MuleSoft is using as a data streaming. The pattern is for data streaming. So you are extracting the data from IoT platform and loading it to your data lake, and while doing so, you do some kind of transformation while you are moving it to your data lake. But yeah, I mean, that is pretty much it. But again, to answer to your question, MuleSoft has a HTTP response for caching policy. With that, if you are trying to, I mean, suppose I am creating a API, and that API is supposed to give a response back, and if the response is pretty much static, every time I need not to go back to my backend application and send the response back, I can use the out of the box HTTP caching policy, which always store the response. And if similar kind of request come, then instead of invoking the API, it can give, I mean, from the API gateway layer, it can send back the response. So that is possible in MuleSoft. That there is
Uh,
out of the box policy.
so here he meant with CDN is a content delivery network.
Okay, yeah, that is not because CDN. If see, it's MuleSoft is not. I mean, if you have to create a CDN kind of thing, probably you have to do some kind of network layering outside MuleSoft. That is because it's not. I mean, MuleSoft is not. This product is not for that. I mean, that's what I mean, because MuleSoft itself is a PaaS, or even if I call Cloud Hub implementation, it's a iPaaS solution which is actually on top of AWS cloud solution, right? So probably then we need to look into AWS offerings under for this CDN thing.
He agrees. We have one more question from Rajesh. So he is asking, can we integrate queues for temporary storing like packet or messages? He's asking in context to retries.
Correct. Yeah. So you can use any point MQ. Only thing is that your individual payload size needs to be less than 10 MB. now because these are IoT, see the pattern of IoT data is that the individual payload size is less, but yeah, there can be many. I mean, I can have trillion 100 KB data from a IoT device. So that's why yes, you can use AnyPoint MQ. It's not a problem. Or else, if you want to use some other kind of streaming data streaming technology in conjunction with MuleSoft, that is also possible. Like Kafka Solace, if you want to do that, that is also possible. That is based on your requirement. So whether you want to store some, yeah, most many a times we need to store the data before it's sending to data lake. I mean, it's a great question, and yeah, so yeah, that is possible, and that is actually I didn't show it in this in my diagram for the sake of simplicity, but yes, that is also a part of this entire solution.
Yeah,
Yeah, Nitish, so
yeah, that's all for now.
okay. So now the next pattern, which is, I mean, we are all are familiar with this pattern. This is the API led connectivity or API based integration. This is about connected trials and co-innovation. That means instead of one clinical trial organization doing the end-to-end end-to-end trial, conducting the end-to-end trial process, there can be some complicated or rare diseases where it is required that multiple people should multiple trial organization to collaborate, and they, because the reason is that different partner or different clinical trial organization has expertise on different areas. So if there is a rare disease which is actually overlapping across multiple areas, I mean, multiple medical areas, where one person or one trial organization cannot conduct the, I mean, they cannot do it fruitfully. And sometimes sponsor even thinks that, okay, why should I go with one trial organization? Let us create, I mean, let us involve two or three trial organization, and then they can collaborate and engineer a trial process where the entire trial process, these or partners can talk to each other very frequently. So now MuleSoft is the absolute solution for this kind of implementation, because MuleSoft has the out of the box capability to expose our legacy or backend business application through a RESTful API. And also MuleSoft provide a lot of security policies where API we can create secured API, we can bring the scalability, and that's the reason why MuleSoft is the choice for this kind of implementation. And even MuleSoft is doing this kind of API-led connectivity in any many other organization or many other industry vertical. Like bank is an example, right? We have created bank as a service for many banks, where banks are actually collaborating with their partner to create some kind of financial product, which is actually expanding. I mean, it's not only bank, then some XYZ organization together, they are doing a business, creating a business model, and they are, I mean, they are selling that model. Similarly, here also trial organization pre-pandemic, I mean, there was some little bit, I mean, people were skeptical about sharing information, trial information beyond the boundary of the company. But post pandemic, things are getting changed. People realize that collaboration is needed, and when they want to collaborate, they want to collaborate on a platform which has the inbuilt capability of maintaining security, then which has the inbuilt capability to do a better governance monitoring, and who will give a better control to that particular partner, that seeing that what is exactly going on. And I cannot think of any better platform than MuleSoft, who can take care of all these things together. So yeah, so I mean, I have just given a sample diagram over here. That's one partner is designing the study, another is updating the study with their expertise. Then some patient enrollment, some partner is doing some other region. I mean, other partner is active in some other region, so they are doing some additional enrollment. And finally, they do the trial together and then submitting the report. It might not be an actual situation. Actual trial process is much more complex than what I am depicting over here. Just for a sake of understanding, I created this diagram, and I think I need not to elaborate on this much, because all of us are knowing that how API led connectivity works. So if there is any question, I can take it up or I can move forward.
Uh, there's no question for now.
Okay. Thank you, Nitish. Okay, so now I'm going to show one of the another thing, which is intelligent patient matching process. So what happened is that, as I mentioned, that matching a patient, I mean, it's really difficult. Means how you are going to enroll a patient, how you are going to exclude or include a patient, because patients are basically, because these are trial process, right? It's not a proven drug. So some, once the trial process start, then the the study designer, they created some criterias that maybe, I mean, some person has to be this kind of BP, that kind of sugar level, and that kind of demography from that region or that origin, then only they can participate into this type of trial. And and I'm just giving 3 4 example, but there are 1,000 rules which needs to be manually checked against each and every patient, and then it is decided whether they can be excluded or included. And there are marginal cases, there are boundary cases. Sometimes there, I mean, sometimes because the complexity and tediousness of this process, there are a lot of manual mistakes happen. Once the trials start, then someone realized that it is not the correct set of people who are supposed to go through this trial, so we need to exclude some of them, we need to include some of the other patient. Again, the process start from the beginning of, and lot of effort, lot of money lost due to these reasons. And here comes MuleSoft hyper automation offering. So now MuleSoft come up with their automation product suite, right? So MuleSoft RPA and MuleSoft Composer, as well as a lightweight anypoint platform. So along with API on top of that, why these things are important, why it is gaining popularity in clinical trial organization, the reason is that, as I mentioned, that over the period, clinical trial organization has start using lot of legacy application, and those legacy applications are a lot of the time they are desktop application. You cannot create an API on top of it and start integrating. So you need a RPA kind of process. I mean, you need a RPA, not kind of, you need a RPA that will going to automatically interact with that kind, those desktop application. Now those desktop application are supposed to communicate with some of the remote application where you can create API. So from RPA you need to call that API, and then maybe using MuleSoft Composer you can have to create some intelligent process. So that is possible with this MuleSoft hyper automation offering, because definitely it is not possible overnight replace all the legacy application, all the desktop application in an organization, in a clinical trial organization, because they are not going to take that risk. So it's much better to create, implement, I mean, go for a process automation or process modernization using out of the box MuleSoft hyper automation offering. So now I'm going to show you that, I mean, this is just a high level means high level process, that how patient matching is done, can be done with MuleSoft hyper automation capability. That doesn't mean that this is the only way of doing patient matching. Again, I'm saying that whatever process I'm showing till now, all are very simplified because of the sake of simplicity. Actual process is a lot complex more than that, and frankly speaking, I'm not from business background, so that's why, I mean there are many things behind the scene. So suppose this is one thing, is that end user or customer, if maybe he can be a clinician or medical practitioner who can refer a patient, and that patient details are going to loaded on a Google Sheet, and then a RPA process, or MuleSoft RPA can read that from that Google Sheet, and then it can load the data to a CTMS portal, I mean clinical trial management service portal. For the sake of discussion, let's say that this is a desktop application. I mean, the screen is a desktop application where the RPA can do that data entry by reading the Google Sheet, and then the data is getting stored into the CTMS or clinical trial management service database. So now I have a schedule process where I have a process API and system API led connectivity, and every 15 minutes or 1 hour or whatever be the frequency, based on that my patient AP recruitment API is going to fetch the data what has been entered into the clinical trial management service. Then it's also going to read the metadata of the study, basically the business rules. It will match the data, and then it will it will decide that whether this patient is a match for this, whether they will be excluded or they will be included, and then they can load that data to a data lake. And then what will happen that some study designer or business person can use a mule composer flow without involving IT. They can extract the data from the data lake, create a report, and see that whether the patient which is coming, through that automated process, whatever patient matching, all those patient qualified for this trial, whether that is sufficient or is there is any boundary case they need to they can consider, or further the patient population needs to be refined further. So this is how the entire process with hyper automation offering from MuleSoft can be automated. Can the mundane task for a trial organize, the study designer can be reduced a lot, and he or she can focus on many core areas, and this will simplify and expedite the entire process a lot. So yeah, so this is what is I mean by patient matching process and how hyper automation can be implemented. So any question?
Not now.
Okay, okay. So now I created a short demo. This is nothing but whatever I have shown as a patient matching. So based on that, I have created, a short demo. It's not that complicated also, whatever I just shown. It's a simplified version of that point of view. So I can create, I have a Google patient data, Google sheet, and there I will enter some data. And then that there is there will be a MuleSoft composer flow, which will read from that information from Google sheet, and then it will go to invoke a Mule API, a simple API what I created for this demo purpose, run some matching rules, and then if the rules matched, it will send it to Snowflake, which I'm using as my data lake or data platform. So I'm saying it data lake, but basically what I've done, I created a simple table where I'm going to insert the data, and if it is not, then it will go to send a message to Slack, and whatever, whether it is match or not match, I will audit it into another Google worksheet. So let me open my you can see my screen, right? I just opened the Postman.
Yes, we can see the post.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. So this is a simple API I have created, so I can show you. Sorry. So anyways, what I have done, I have just created few parameters I am sending, and if I click on this, it will show me that all the parameter it will return back, along with that they will say that whether it's a match or not. So what I have done actually, I just created a hard-coded logic that if the state is not Florida or the sugar level is more than 200, then make it a no, or else you make it a yes. So if I make it, suppose, and I run it, then the match will be no. So that's why how I'm going to deciding. I'm going to decide that whether this patient is a match or not. It's a simple implementation just for this demo purpose. And this is my MuleSoft composer, and this is the flow. So let me go to the edit mode so that I can explain the flow. So I have a triggering event in the MuleSoft composer, which this triggering event will actually start the flow. And this is the Google sheet where this worksheet, which if I update something on this row, it will start the composer flow. And that's why I created, taken this event as updated row, and then I am reading from this worksheet, which the name of this worksheet is test, and result is where I am going to load this data as a whatever I am reading, and after that whether this patient is a match or not match, that I'm going to load it over here. So for the timing I'm deleting it, because now when I will run the composer, you can see that the composer will going to write it. So next is that I am calling through a HTTP action, I am invoking my MuleSoft API, which is running on Cloud Hub, and there I am passing a parameter, I mean header parameter, content type as application JSON, because I'm sending the data as a JSON parameter, and it's a post method, and I am sending the data from my Excel sheet, so from my Google sheet. So these are the column, right? So ID, name, sugar level, and state. So that same columns I'm sending as an input to that particular API. So basically, behind the scene, MuleSoft Composer is creating this as a, I mean, something like this JSON structure it is creating and sending. And then once I get back the response, I just writing it on a log, which is this one, this worksheet result, where I'm going to write it. And I'm just, for the purpose of showing that how I can use some kind of data transformation, I put something, I mean, it is deliberate, no meaning, that what I'm doing, whatever ID I am putting here in test, I am adding 20, I mean, just adding 1 plus 20. So it will, when it will store the data in result, it will become 21 over here. So that is just to show that Composer has also the capability to do kind of data transformation. So, and this level is the level what is coming out as output from that MuleSoft REST API. Match is also from there, but row, I mean, this is just ideally you have to take this row also from this HTTP response. I'm just taking it from the initial Google sheet. This is the, this from here I am taking this name value, just to show that because before this activity you have this Google sheet activity and the HTTP activity, so result set from both the applications are available, so you can choose any one, and it's all click, no coding is required. And then I am using a if else condition, where I am checking that if the match value equals to yes, then you go ahead and insert the data inside the snowflake table. So I have a snowflake, I mean, this is my snowflake trial version, and I just, if I run it, there is no data at this moment. So this is the table I created, there is no data at this moment, and I'm asking them to insert the data. I'm using the insert event and action, and I'm asking that insert the data to snowflake if the match is yes. And if I show you the SQL string, this is how I parameterized my input string. So moment I create colon ID or colon name or colon level, based on that, Composer will automatically create these fields, and it allow me to choose the values for those fields. So runtime I am passing all those values. And then finally, if it is not a match, I mean, if the match is no, then I am going to invoke a Slack channel. So now what I used for, I mean, there are many operation available in Slack action. So you can post a message to channel, you can send a direct message to a user, but there is one more thing. Sorry, uh, sorry, I should not, just one moment, I just don't want to, yeah, when, because of this demo I prepared it, I don't want to mess it up, sorry. Okay, so anyways, for that Slack operation, there is one more thing, one more operation or action is available, where if you don't know exactly who is the user, but you know the email, then you can pass that email. This is my Gmail ID, and if I pass it, it automatically find my user ID on the Slack in next step, and then it will pass the information that whatever I am sending, I mean, the information what I'm trying to send on my Slack channel, I'm trying to say that, hey, you know, there is not, I mean, there is a patient which is not matching. So now, sorry, so now let us see this in action. So I didn't activate it, so I just, it's a flow, I'm going to test it, waiting. So give it some time so that it start, I mean, it's ready to take the, yeah, now it's listening to the event. So what I will do, I will just change the state, and it should allow me to insert the data into the snowflake table. So it's running. So far there is no data. there is no data. It's now getting processed. I think it's now the data got moved. So if I run, you can see that Composer has now inserted that data into the into my Snowflake, because it found that this patient is a match for the for this trial process. I mean, based on whatever rule I said in the API layer. And if I go to result, you can see they had Composer also audited that data, so I can know that okay, this is the match is yes. Now let us see that if I can enter one more data row here. So let me put another row and let me make it a mismatch so that I can. Yeah, any question?
Yeah, and then we have got one from Rajesh.
Yeah,
So he
sure.
asked, like, if there are millions of records to process, how long this transformation will take?
Yeah, that Rajesh, as I mentioned, right, that beforehand you should have a RPA process where which will insert the row, and then I mean what it will do, it will fetch the a composer can fetch the row, and then it can generate the report. So ideally there should not be millions of rows. I mean, process needs to be created in that way. You are not going to, I mean, you are dealing with maybe millions of patients, but you are not going to generate this matching process for entire million patients in one go. It might be phase wise, and that is how you need to design it. But for, because I don't have RPA at this moment and all, and I didn't get a time to create that kind of POC, for to be frank. So that's why I just create a POC with Composer and a simple MuleSoft API. So that's why I'm showing it in a simpler manner. But definitely, and Composer also has capability to deal with data based on your licensing and packaging. That's a subsequent. That's a question for the. I mean, you can ask this question to your MuleSoft account executive also if you want to use Composer. But with RPA, Composer, and MuleSoft API, that scale, I mean, you have to design your process in such a way where you can go for a phase wise. I mean, it should come on a phase. But thing is that the entire process should be activated for maybe 24 by 7 or whatever is your range. And it should gradually process the patient, because you are not going to get the million patient in one go, right? I mean, you are going to search for patient, and it's a long term process. It's not like I one day I come and I get all million of patient and I start processing. Did I able to answer that question, Rajesh?
Yeah, seems good.
Okay. Okay, so now I'm going to test it. One second, I have to update the data a bit so that I mean it should trigger. Yeah. So let me say I make it 200. Let's see. Because I didn't activate the flow, I mean, it will not continuously triggering the event or listening to events. So once it's, I mean, testing mode, once it's awaiting for trigger event, that time I need to do something so that it understand that some change happened and it start the flow. So okay, the test finished. Let me see. So see, now I am it comes directly to this Slack channel, and it is showing that detail of the rejected patient, and it's showing me the patient detail which got rejected. And if I go to the Google Sheet where actually this result, you can see now there are two data got inserted. One is match is yes, and one is match is no. So this is the demo I prepared. I mean, a short demo just to show you that, I mean, using the automation product suite, MuleSoft automation product suite. There are many there are many clinical trial processes which can be hyper automated. This is one of, I mean, patient matching is one of the area, and that too I am just touch a specific area. There are many things happen in terms of patient matching. I mean, when I'm talking patient matching, it's a big process. So we can, there are subset of processes, and then each subset can be automated using hyper automation. So I think that's it from my end. I mean, this is the last of my topic. So yeah, so yeah, so I should stop sharing so that, I mean, Nitish, you can take over now.
Sure, sure. Anand.
Thank you.
Thank you for a very interactive and informative session.
Thanks, Nitish.
So Q&As, questions are welcome. Okay, fine. It seems we are good. I'll be stop sharing. Sorry, stop recording.